So with that, I'm going to hand over to Parm and Rajeev. I think we're going to chair the fireside session with Rob.
Thanks, Nanda. It's an absolute pleasure. I see a lot of familiar faces in the panel, so good to meet all of you virtually in the community, and I'm sure I'll see a lot of you in Barcelona too. But look, it's my absolute pleasure today to just kind of organize a bit of a discussion on the Cargill journey, as I call it. And I think there's nobody better than Robert and Parm together to just walk us through it. So I'll primarily play the role of a moderator to kind of guide the discussion, though I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions based on what Nanda said and what I've been hearing. I think a lot of people are very curious. So we will try our level best to keep a lot of time for that too. So let me start with just quick introductions. Joining me on the panel today, Robert Greiner is the Director of Platform Engineering at Cargill. But really, as I have gotten to know him over the last couple of years, what is really interesting is he has decades of experience building a lot of infrastructure at Cargill, and he has seen a few waves of technology. He has seen a few waves of how organizations run in these large enterprises. What are the trends that come and go? And so I have always learned a lot every time I've had an opportunity to talk to him, and I'm sure I will today too. So thank you, Robert, for taking the time today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. And the other part of the panel, which is equally important, Parm Sandhu, he leads the products team for the Edge and Private 5G for NTT Data. As you know, NTT Data is one of the largest global IT services and consulting company, a subsidiary of the Japan's NTT, but they provide everything from digital transformation to cloud services to application development, cybersecurity, you name it, and NTT Data does it. In this case, they were one of the important SIs in this equation as well. And so I wanted to have this discussion where we have kind of different perspectives. We have a perspective of the actual end customer and their experience, most critical, and then everything from products and services and how it all comes together and what's still remaining. So if it's okay with you, I've done a half-assed job of doing the introduction, but Robert, if I can hand it to you to not just introduce yourself, but for those of the rare people who don't know Cargill, it'll be super helpful for them to just get maybe a minute or two on who Cargill is.
Yeah, thanks, Rajeev. I've got a little raspy voice, but I'll make it through it. So Cargill's a huge company. It's privately held. We got about 1,100 locations across the globe. Um, I'm based in the United States. I grew up in one of our largest locations. Um, I've always been in the OT, IT space, plant network connectivity. Um, it's really been a journey trying to figure out how to get plants connected at Cargill. Uh, we've tried everything, and you know, the 5G journey started with me about 5 years ago. A couple, I believe AT&T and T and Verizon both come in and did um, presentations that had one slide in it that talked on P5G, and it resonated with me. So that started the journey of me trying to get P5G into Cargill. And a lot of people are like, wow, you're going fast. And I'm like, well, it took me 4 years to get the first site going. And there was a lot of ups and downs of what we should do, whether we should be, carving out spectrum, or how we should be partnering. And, um, you know, um, I'm very happy where we're at now, but really Cargill, we lit our first site up in March of 2025, and we're going pretty fast, as you know.
Indeed. And we'll talk a lot more about that. I mean, to me, as I have learned to realize just the scale of what Cargill operates at, I mean, to give everybody else who might not be familiar, I think you operate in over 80 countries, Robert. I think, from what I understand, Cargill's the largest privately held company in the US in terms of revenue. I think you have over 180,000 employees, if I'm right, based on what I have heard over the years. So it is genuinely of a scale that, it is both exciting and challenging. And maybe that's a good segue to Parm. Maybe if you don't mind giving a quick intro into the group that you're with NTT Data. Everybody in the world knows NTT Data, but a little bit of that and just how you got initially connected with Robert.
Yeah, very nice. And really, first of all, it's an honor to have Robert and Cargill as a client. And, we're very, very grateful for that. So I'm part of what we call the Edge, or New Ventures Innovation Edge team. We started, I think, in the very early days of private 5G. So I think we all have the industry veterans as scars here. And that's been, truly for us, envisioning the vision and now seeing, companies like Cargill who are taking a very different view and on this. And I think we're going to hear about that. I, come from a long history of telecom, and our goal was really not just to do private network, but also bring in edge computing, the necessary components to drive the digital transformation. And that's edge computing. And now we've, end devices, and now we're bringing in everything together with, for example, AI is really transforming this. So from what I call kind of the industry 5.0 shift that we're finally starting to see, moving away from just dashboards and data presentation to actually driving outcomes. So, really part of NTT, what I'm part of the group is called Data Center and Connectivity and Communications, which, as probably maybe not many of you know, as Rajeev mentioned, that we are the world's third largest data center provider. Massive business. So, a fact that we always kind of proudly state is that, a vast majority of the internet traffic and everything goes through NTT. Or subsea cables. And so part of that, having the honor to be part of that whole global connectivity, and we could bring satellite and backhaul and data center and capacity and edge into one. And that's thinking about what all of the pieces you need. So looking forward to talking about some of the key use cases that we've deployed and what we've done as we move forward through this.
Thank you, Parm. Thank you. So let me maybe take you up, Robert, on that point about you first heard about this on a slide, I believe in 2020, in the midst of COVID. And finally, when you got around to deploying it was, if I'm right, midway through almost 25 or early 25. That's about a 5-year. I'm sure all the salespeople in this call are salivating at a 5-year sales journey. So given that cycle, but help us understand from a customer perspective, what happens behind the scenes from that first exposure to saying, okay, let's go do this?
Well, a lot of times we fell into that use case trap, and I'm not a fan of the use case anymore. Because we looked for the perfect use case. So we had projects start, we had projects stop, we had vendors come in, we had carrier grade, we had terms thrown around, we had budgets get sliced because of spending on Cargill. We just had a variety of things not get this started. And I really took a different approach. I started attacking it on how can I find the replacement of this? Like I took a step back and I started thinking, if you have Wi-Fi, you don't install Wi-Fi at a facility on a use case basis. You put Wi-Fi out there and people expect it. They expect to get it. They expect it to be used. And if you're installing Wi-Fi on a use case basis, in my opinion, you're going to be in trouble in the carpeted spaces of corporate America. And that might be when Wi-Fi first started being installed, it was done that way, but not now. Now, in carpeted spaces, you just expect Wi-Fi to be there. So when we talk about lighting up manufacturing spaces, we talk about lighting up plant floors and having connectivity be there. And then if we ever use the term use case, we use it in a way of saying stacking use cases. So we want to have, that connectivity model is there so that not only can we do the first thing they wanted to do, but we have it there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it's there not just for that little corner of the factory and the little place they wanted AGVs to run around. We have it, for the cameras that are going to be, outside, for the fork trucks that are going to have tablets on them, whatever that is. And that's where we've been successful, is looking at it at that. Now, we're not going to be able to do 1,100 facilities. I mean, you might want us to do 1,100 facilities.
Always.
But we're not going to be able to do 1,100 facilities, in a year. But we got to systematically start figuring out what facilities it makes sense for Cargill to do this technology at, and go in there and don't light up a little corner of it for one little specific use case. Because what's going to happen is we're going to paint ourselves in a little corner, and then somebody's going to say, I thought they did that P5G thing here. Oh, yeah. It's over in the corner of the warehouse over there. Well, I could put a camera here. Well, it's just on the edge of where that's reachable, so it's not going to work. You're going to have to add to the project.
Super interesting. And Parm, you've been in this industry long enough. How typical is this? What Robert just described when you talk to customers, or how unique is Robert in this environment?
I think I absolutely, it's very, no one else has that vision. And I think it's almost like Robert said, we don't do that for Wi-Fi. We don't do that for cell coverage. We look at it in terms of what is the stacking of use cases. Absolutely. And I think what the vision is going to, as we move through with, capabilities that are being enabled, it's going to pay back so much more dividend, right? Because you're not looking at it in an isolation. And we've seen exactly this materialize. Customers saying, hey, I've got a project, I need 5G connectivity. Oh, and by the way, that project's canceled. So sorry, now we've spent a year talking about it. Absolutely. And that is, if that's the fundamental vision, I think that is a driver, then we're going down the wrong path. It needs to be more fundamental of, hey, listen, you want that blanket connectivity on, you got to pick the right sites, 100%. That's what we see all the time, that, are we picking the right facility? Is it the right size? Is it the right use case, overall business priority? And then I think the second, what we're starting to see now as well in certain industries like airports, they're saying maybe we do need that second backup network, especially for an airport. So they're not thinking about private network as a specific use case, but they're thinking about, hang on, our Wi-Fi is used for many things. Maybe we need that second network as a backup network. And I think that is another view that I'm starting to hear from a lot of CIOs as well, that now you have two blanket networks. You never want to put in everything on a single network, right? And I think that is another view that we're starting to see emerge in the industry, because they're not saying, well, I only want coverage in the apron areas. I want blanket coverage because I want that second network peace of mind, especially if something goes down on Wi-Fi or something else. Now, of course, there's different use cases that could be enabled on each, but the fundamental basic communication exists on all networks. And I think that is another area that we're starting to hear.
That's very interesting. That's super interesting. Now, Robert, I actually have obviously knowledge of how you've been thinking about this for the sites that you are, and I know it's different than that backup concept. It's more in that former concept. So eventually, when you think about this, that I want to provide blanket connectivity, don't look for one use case. I'm sure, Robert, it eventually comes down to dollars. I'm sure your business eventually says, yeah, but where do we get the dollars for this? And so what was that equation like? What did it need to be for it to make sense for Cargill? And then what was your argument to the business?
Well, there's a couple ways. What brought us to you is the way that your connectivity model is we install your infrastructure very much the same way we install Wi-Fi. So most of Cargill sites have connectivity at most of our buildings. So I'm able to sit on that corporate network that's already deployed I'm able to backhaul on fiber that's already on that network, just like what I would do for Wi-Fi. So my install cost, I don't have to run fiber from radio back to a RAN, back to a core. I don't have a conduit cost. I don't have single mode fiber I have to run across
Are you getting it right?
the plant.
Yes.
So that is very key to me to getting this put in.
Great. Okay, can I
If
tag
I
you
had to
guys?
do
Yes.
that across my facilities, it would be a deal breaker.
Yeah,
It
we
would
have Rajeev on our team
really
with Robert in NTT.
it would
Sorry,
really
guys. Can
stop.
everybody go on mute? Pradyum, can you please go on mute?
It
Apologies,
would
Robert.
stop me from being able to have these projects move forward. Specifically, that's where when I compare this to Wi-Fi, that's where the savings has to be. You have to attack the cable install and the cabling cost. The hardware cost is almost a given. It's almost a push. Even though there's far less access points that get put in. Yeah, and that's how we're able to really set that up. I don't know a lot of other vendors that are able to do that. I, right before we come on, the gentleman from Boingo was talking about NFL or baseball stadiums or events. I think manufacturing America doesn't have that type of connectivity, event type things. I'm not going to have 40,000 people show up at a Cargill facility with, tablets needing to stream video, to show events. So I've got a different model than he has, different problem. Totally.
Absolutely. And Robert, just to maybe continue that, you gave a hint of it, but you started midway through last year. Give us a sense of how far along you are in about less than a year and what your vision is in the coming 12 to 18 months.
Well, I'm through 50 sites, and yeah, I would, and that's not all in the United States. I mean, I've got sites in Europe. We're looking at sites in Latin America, South America. We're looking at sites in APAC. Cargill's global. We're probably going to chew off over 100 to 150 sites a year going forward. Cargill's fiscal year starts in June, and we're going to target that. That's significant growth for us. I would put Cargill, what their plan is on their connectivity and what they want to do at their facilities. I tongue in cheek tell people, what do you think about this Spectrum game? I'm like, well, I'm looking for a job if this goes away. I'm in trouble. Cargill's definitely believes in this technology. It's a game changer for us. When you got 1,100 facilities and what it enables at our facilities, it's a game changer for us. And when I talk to people that aren't looking at this, people that, I call them the Wi-Fi warriors that are still deep into Wi-Fi and manufacturing, I just don't think they've looked at it deep enough. We've got a lot of work to do around devices. The ecosystem of devices isn't mature enough, but the more we band together as manufacturing groups, the better that's going to get. So the more groups that come on with us, the better it's going to get.
I think that's a great point. And Parm, I'm going to turn this over to you because I know this is something that your team looks at across the entire stack, from device to the network to the edge compute applications to data centers. How's this ecosystem looking to you? And, I would love to get your perspective to the whole ecosystem to say, what should we do more or different or maybe less? What should we do?
Yeah. Well, let me, I think one couple things I wanted to say, and with Robert in terms of the locations and spectrum, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about that because NTT, we operate, one of the reasons I think we add value is being a global partner. We operate in, we have dedicated people and resources in over, 60 plus countries. The relationship that NTT brings and partnerships we bring with our Docomo business and a carrier business, we have, we're working to get that spectrum in all of these countries and creating a standardized solution across all of the, around the world for clients. We have clients that are global, and one reason that we bring is that ability, is that, we can deliver that standard solution anywhere, any location. And I think that's the key part for companies like Cargill, is that you now have a standard solution everywhere, right? Devices are going to work. You use the same methodology. You connect into their LAN exactly the same way, in an extension of the LAN, as we always say. So that's number one. And we're trying always to stay ahead, to get spectrum, to get access to spectrum. And it's still, we're working very hard to do that. And now we've delivered, I think, Rajeev, we've talked about spectrum and capabilities for our clients that operate in China, operating in Latin America. And that's a big part of the effort around that. Still a lot of work to do. And this is where we need global industry support. And the good news is many countries around the world, either we're doing it through partnerships with MNOs, partnerships with the regulators, or third parties that, in certain countries, in licensing, how they have to apply for spectrum for those industries. And that's a big part of the work that we're doing. The secondly, as you said, is, how do we bring devices? Because ultimately you need different devices for different industries. The networks, you need rugged devices. You can't use a nice looking, cell phone and a smartphone in an environment. You'll lose them every day. They'll be broken every day. Doesn't quite work. So how do we bring rugged devices that are going to be suitable and bring those applications? I think there's a lot of conversation around use cases and applications already. But bringing sensors, I think, is another big part. Being able to right now enable LoRaWAN sensors and data across all LoRaWAN has been a big win. Now we actually have a LoRaWAN to 5G gateway. I think Gary was talking about it earlier. We also have now, new capabilities coming in, like RedCap and all of these features that are going to come and enable that over 5G. So continuing on the device ecosystem. Finally, the other part we're starting to see is, cameras connected. We do now have some cameras that are integrated from companies like Pegatron, companies like Axis, which is ideal for a lot of these computer vision AI use cases that we're starting to see. But I still think that another big area for business that we're emerging in use cases and enablement is autonomous control. So, we've developed in NTT, working together, buses and remote buses, or in remote mining. How do we control this heavy machinery and heavy equipment? Or even doesn't have to be heavy machinery. It could be drones that are used, for applications. We've developed some really interesting use cases for, drones that can easily be used for even scaring away birds, like with laser lights, etc., which is a unique use case that, it's an amazing use case, because you think about agriculture and companies like Cargill and other clients of ours who are saying, how do we enable, automation? Because you can't use, in that specific use case, you can't use, if you think about deterrence, there's audio deterrence systems, there's physical deterrence systems, but NTT developed a very unique laser-based system that allows us to, use lasers and drones to scare away birds in agriculture, right? And birds, other animals that are causing huge crop losses. And that's an amazing use case out of the box. So there's still a lot of work. Spectrum is one. New devices and capabilities is another that we continue to get more. And I think another part of it is, building these new use cases and solutions. So edge is becoming very critical for industry. So small scale compute infrastructure, easy to deploy, that can be used to enable these use cases on premise. Not everything can go to the cloud, right? Not everything can be sitting in the cloud, as we all see. because a lot of these industrial use cases need immediate response time.
So Parm, I think this edge piece almost requires like a whole new session. So I think I'm gonna start campaigning for Nanda for the next uptime ASAP for this panel to come back together on that topic, because I do think that deserves its own. I have one important question though, and it is yes, Nanda. Are we on time?
Sorry, no, I was just saying on edge, we'll definitely table that for the next one.
Perfect. Sounds good. I do have one important question, and it is marginally controversial because what's the fun of having a panel with all perspectives if there's no controversy? So, Robert, I'm gonna ask this first of you. You know, there are many types of partners offering a variety of services to a company like Cargill, from entirely outsourced models to doing special a la carte services, to just consultancy services, to applications and spectrum consulting. You've heard the whole gamut. And I would love your thoughts on how that affects an enterprise's ability to actually innovate when it's a brand new technology. What comes in the way versus what helps? And then what have you done to kind of manage that process?
Well, I mean, I think we struggled at first thinking that this was, how to say it the right way, that again, we have to do like piles of what this technology is. In manufacturing, I think we are deploying this in a methodology that is not complex to me. And so there is people we lean on, but the amount of expertise in P5G, in my opinion, is lacking out there in the world. I've said that you could drop into any medium to small size city and, pull up Google and say, give me a Wi-Fi engineer, and you would just be filled with people that could help you. You could drop into a large city and say, give me a P5G engineer, and you would not get anything that would come back. So we've actually had some people that's partnered with us, and we've kind of meandered around, and we've, quite frankly, landed on who's helping us on this call. And then we're building some of that expertise in-house as well. So, and we found out in talking to other people that are doing what we're doing, there's a lot of that going on. We had talked to John Deere, we had talked to BP, we had talked to BASF, and they were down the same sort of road that we were on. And that's not taking away from, Peter that was on earlier. There is an industry that is very complex, out going up and down, huge oil and gas, going up and down huge highways, that needs a very complex engineer. And that has to be, and we partner with them some and get their expertise. I'm not saying we don't. It's just when you get into a warehouse environment, I don't want to simplify it, but it's not a totally different than deploying Wi-Fi. I mean, it's generate a heat map. How many access points do you need? Make sure you have a good heat map, and let's go, sort of thing. So that's where I'm at. I think, having good partners like NTT and Celona, along for that ride. And I don't want to say stop the noise, but boy, there's a lot of noise out there that, that a lot of people want to be, there's a lot of help that you can get if you just open up the doors, I guess. Rajeev, if you want to say that.
Well, I know you will now be bombarded in your email with people with 5G expertise. So I know you are assured of that. So Nanda, I know you have your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Rajeev. So, Rob, in one of your earlier talks that you were doing with Celona, I heard you make a very interesting point, which I think would be useful for the audience. You were talking about comparing P5G versus cellular and about the life cycle, how when Wi-Fi upgrades, the number of access points goes up for whatever reason. I think they're going up the spectrum curve or etc. And then the life cycle of Wi-Fi being 4 years versus 10 years for 5G. And that's something that not many people are actually familiar with from the 5G industry when we're doing these. I'm a little bit familiar of it because after I joined HB, but HPE, but love to hear it from your perspective as an actual customer.
Yeah, well, I mean that's so you can call it the gift that keeps on giving or whatever you want to say, but there's a tool out there that one of the World Congresses has to compare Wi-Fi and P5G, and I actually think it's missing out on some of the things there because it only compares P5G and Wi-Fi for 4 years, and it shows that P5G starts quite a bit cheaper than Wi-Fi, and then over 4 years, those lines start to gradually get closer. And there should be a jump at year 5, in my opinion, because at year 5 of Wi-Fi, most corporate America is going to go out and touch that Wi-Fi access point, and they're going to have a cost for life cycling it. And I believe P5G is going to keep running. And in most of our manufacturing warehouses or even plant floors, it's an 8 to 15 to 1, depending on what the makeup of the building is. But let's just do 10 to 1. So at 10 to 1, the cablings ran, the mounts ran. So the money to life cycle that access point is much cheaper. And then I don't know where Wi-Fi is going, but history says that every time Wi-Fi goes through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the area of that access point gets smaller. So when you do your plant floor and you say you had 40 access points to cover that area, and you build a new heat map to go to 6 from 5, to cover that same area, they say, to go from 2.4 to 5 gigahertz, they're like, you really need to add 10 more access points. So there's that cost involved in it. And so, again, I am not knocking Wi-Fi. There's areas in corporate America that we absolutely got to have Wi-Fi, and Cargill's not moving away from it. But when you truly look at on a manufacturing floor, we are actively going out after some of our Wi-Fi installations, and we're showing that we can pull Wi-Fi out. We can take 40 access points out, and instead of life cycling them, I can put 5 P5G access points in, and I can switch over the tablets to P5G and be cheaper because of the installation flip. And it's on paper. I show it to the business. I say, I'm going to save you the first go around money, but in 5 years, I'm really going to save you money because you're going to go through another life cycle event, and we're just going to keep on running. So I just kind of say the gift that keeps on giving.
I think that's a great case study. And I think, Robert, we have a lot of the math behind it available. So for folks who want to actually play around with these tools, I'll just offer up that both on NTT and Celona's website, we have these case studies, we have TCO calculators. So if your customers want to put your own numbers and play with it, I would highly encourage it. I think Robert has really tapped into a mindset and a vision which goes a little longer term and thinks beyond that first use case. And I think we are genuinely excited to share that story with everyone. I do want to end with both Parm and Robert taking a couple of minutes maybe and saying, if anybody out there is an enterprise who is going through that question that, Robert, you had in 2020 or 21 or 22 or many years, today, what would you tell them to just go do immediately? What would be that one thing to say, okay, this is where you probably start, or this is how you think about it? So maybe, Parm, I'll start with you. What would you advise that customer?
Yeah, no, I would say definitely, Rajeev, in terms of look at it from a whole perspective. Don't look at it in a singular view of a single project that's driving this need, because you're going to foundationally end up back at the same. Well, should I do Wi-Fi? Should I do private 5G? Look at the overall. Look at all of your systems and infrastructure that you have. Most companies will have multiple radio systems, multiple network systems, and but do look at it from an overall need of connectivity and why connectivity is so essential for them. So this is one network that could do mobile use cases. It can provide solid connectivity in areas that you're challenged. We can expand cell coverage onto these networks, where there's no cell coverage. I think we talked about a lot of deployments that are out in remote areas that today don't have cell coverage, or corporations need that coverage for their affiliates, for their employees, because they want them to stay connected. And typically that's kind of fallen back to Wi-Fi, and that's kind of hit limits. So things like neutral host solutions. So what I would say to companies is, look at from a holistic point of view. You have maybe a two-way radio system, you have Wi-Fi system, you may have cellular DAS type systems. If you look at from the cost of maintaining all of those networks and managing all those networks and upgrading and lifecycle management, it's a massive cost. Take that budget that you have, look at it holistically, and don't just have it in pockets of DAS or pockets of Wi-Fi. Think about that as a holistic and try to have a vision to go to, is there a technology that's going to allow you to do segmentation of traffic? The security is another foundation that I don't think we touched on today. Was private 5G offers the best in class security, and a lot of clients, when they're looking at attacks and things that have happened, this is where I think they struggle. Now you have a mission critical network, highly secure, that allows you to drive various traffic and prioritization. That can all be done on one technology. And we, and partner with somebody, that you have, you bring together, and it's picking the right partners who have experience, expertise, who are going to be flexible to their needs. In the case of, as Robert is saying, I want to be able to do it my way. I want to be able to have partners who are flexible. And I believe that was always, Robert, your original view to us is, yeah, don't count on everything, you guys. We have capabilities and we want to build it to scale. So I think that would be foundational in my view. But I want them to start looking at it holistically as opposed to
That's a fantastic piece of advice, and great call out on security, Parm. Thank you for doing that. Robert, obviously, what would you advise a customer? But I would add a second question for you. I know Nanda has put together genuinely pretty much everybody in the P5G ecosystem here. So a lot of this audience is not just the customers, but are honestly vendors of every type that are doing private 5G. And firstly, credit to Nanda, fantastic job putting this together. So Robert, what's your advice to us as a private 5G ecosystem and community? What should we do better in serving you?
Well, in my opinion, I think this community needs to, work. I think we're missing, like, manufacturing's a huge growth area. I think getting out into those spaces. I think many of my partner businesses don't understand, what can happen out there. Again, I go back to the ecosystem of devices. I think there's still some of the consumer-facing companies still aren't. I still struggle with Dell, Samsung. I don't think they're bought in yet. I think pressure from them to get them moving. But then, we have to stop. It seems like at some point in the last couple of years, we were all in competition with each other, like to get, this industry was to try to get to the front of each other. And I think that needs to kind of stop. Like this industry needs to thrive as one unit. before we attack each other. Like we're not mature enough, in my opinion, to say we're gonna beat each other up. Let's get to where we are, a significant player in the global community for connectivity, in corporate America, and then or global connectivity, and then maybe you can say, okay, how do I become the connectivity king of the five, people doing this. So I think the Ericssons, the Nokias, the Celonas need to start, working more together than apart, maybe. And I don't know what that means. I just feel like as an industry, we're better together. And some of my counterparts, we've been, in alliances, we've been working together, and I think that's been great for us. We have a stronger voice together than we do apart. So I that's what needs to happen. I've made some great relationships, and I've learned a lot from talking to those people, and that's what I think has to happen in this community is we're not going anywhere, I don't believe, but as an industry, we need to grow together.
Well, amen to that, Robert. Thank you so much. I know you're battling the flu today, and I really, really appreciate fighting through that. I know the community benefits greatly from your advice and your experience. And Parm, as ever, a learning experience. Thank you so much, both of you. Nanda, thank you for the amazing platform you've set up for all of us.
Well, thank you all for being here. And Rajeev, you still got another session to do, so, so don't run away.
On that one, now I need to go change my slides. Robert told me not to beat up on competitors.
There's a lot of stuff to
plug in for
talking about.
Nanda 2026. So please do come visit us at NTT Data booth in Hall 3. We'll be there. I'll be there. We're going to be showcasing a lot of use cases, and everyone's welcome to come visit, drop by. We're also going to have some demonstrations at the Smart Aviation Summit that's happening. So Nanda, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone.
Nanda, did we achieve the impossible and not talk Gen AI in the entire panel? I think we did. I think we get props for that.
I think you actually did. Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't hear a GPU.
I'm proud of the panel then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everything.
Okay, and we'll circle back later. Thank you, everyone. So that was an amazing talk from Cargill. At the front line of deploying. And to hear from them that they're deploying not just 150 networks, but 150 networks a year is what they're hoping to deploy over the next 2 or 3 years over 1,000 sites. Although, of course, all the 1,000 may not be private 5G. So just doing the quick maths from there, if you take the Fortune 1,000 companies and say that each of them is going to deploy 100 networks, like 100 campuses. Across the world, like Cargill, then we get to the 100,000 network number pretty quickly. So it's not a stretch to think that when we expand this market and see 5G, private 5G adopted more rapidly, that we can get into the 250 to 500,000 mark as well. So really, I think. Cargill really is just what the doctor ordered to show us that if we get the price point right, the solution right, that the demand is out there from the end user market. We're just in time now to start the next end user story, and that's the City of Brownsville. So I'd like to invite Fawad and also Jorge Cardenas, who's CIO of Brownsville, if you guys are able to switch on your videos.
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon.
I see Jorge. Fawad.
Good morning.
Hey, Fawad. Yeah, you in dark mode.
Okay, I do have to rejoin. Looks like it's not working. Give me a few minutes.
Yeah, no problem at all. But meanwhile, I can start off and do a quick round of introduction. Jorge, you're CIO of the City of Brownsville. Would you like to take a few minutes just to give a sort of background to of yourself, City of Brownsville, while we're waiting for Fawad to join?
Yeah, of course. So everybody, good meeting everybody here online. So again, I'm Jorge Cardenas. I am the CIO for the City of Brownsville. Brownsville is a city, southeast of Texas, close to the border of Mexico and the Gulf. And Brownsville is a city that has been on a growth mode for the last 5 years, and over the past 3.5 years that I've been here, a lot of transformation has happened, especially on the technology side. But a little bit about me, my background, 8 years in the Marine Corps. Spent 9 years working for the Department of Defense, 4 years in the private sector manufacturing. So, and now again, 3.5 years here in the city of Brownsville. So, thank you for inviting us to this chat.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jorge. I think Fawad is having some problems switching on his video. But maybe if we can take the time, because one of the things I want to talk about to highlight is that what we're seeing with the City of Brownsville, clearly it's we've looked at enterprise up to now, but the City of Brownsville is really a public service organization. So that's what makes this really so interesting. Hey, Fawad, we see you now. Oops, disappeared. Let me just see if I can do something to help from my screen.
No, I just give me a second. I think I'm trying to fix it. So looks like I'd needed a security update that needed to be done.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
Now you're here, all secure, all clean. You've been through your what do you call it? Airside cleared now. So with that, Fawad, do you just want to say a few words? Jorge has already introduced himself, so maybe you'd like to take a few.
Sure. Sorry, I missed Jorge's introduction, but I think quick background of myself. I'm being in the private sector for 17 years and now working in public sector, supporting Jorge and the City of Brownsville and in the goals and missions that they have set forth. I was inspired by their goals that they had set, which was clear. They clearly knew what they wanted. But the first time I visited them, and it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey, I would say.
Excellent, super. So now we're waiting to hear all about the private 5G network that you've deployed. The use case is for public service, public safety. And also you guys have, I think, one of the first sort of waivers from the FCC, right, to broadcast at high power on CBRS. So really excited to hear about it. Anything you can share or with us? We'd love to know more about what
I'd like to add that our private 5G is not just supporting the public safety use cases, they're also helping in Wi-Fi. We're providing Wi-Fi for communities, parks. That's one of the key part. The FCC waiver that the city has submitted, it's still under consideration. It is being submitted for high power for CBRS. With support of a few of the partners in the industry. And we submitted that primarily to make sure we can save savings by implementing and deploying lesser number of radio units that would be required. It will almost reduce in half. We did RF analysis of the coverage that it will take. So by having 13 dB more outdoor power, it will help the city to save almost half the number of nodes. That means half the expenditure in deployment, half the expenditure in overall management and operations, and provide even the same or better coverage.
Okay. We've got an international audience here. Many people may not know the city of Brownsville. So maybe maybe I can ask Jorge this. Jorge, if you can give us a little bit of background as to what makes a bit of a background into what is the city of Brownsville, where it is, some of the particular problems you face, and what the thinking was in deciding to go for a private 5G network rather than Wi-Fi or the public networks, etc.
Yeah, I think it's pretty, many cities, and I would say it's clear, right? But I think it's clear for me. But for many cities in the country, go through the challenge of connectivity. A city has so many assets available that needs to be connected, but they just cannot be connected because there is no wireless connectivity. And many cities in the U.S. do not have a fiber network that can be utilized to connect any radio or any IoT in a space that is open, right? In parks or streets or anything like that. It will be very costly for a city, and it is very costly for a city to connect, fiber to all the IoTs, or So for me, my background is military. Again, I was deployed to many parts in the world where we had to use remote connections, wireless connection to operate. And now coming to a city, and me coming from manufacturing as well, where we deployed a 5G network in the manufacturing facilities, and knowing the power and how they operate and how it is utilized. I just brought all that experience to the city, because the city of Brownsville, the main challenge is being a border town. The cellular signal from Mexico and the U.S. clash at a point. So the connection is very, very poor in certain areas of the city, especially in the downtown area where we have our offices, where the police department, the fire department have their main office. And obviously the patrol cars and all the assets of the city roam in this area and suffer from those connections. So a private wireless network gave us the ability to connect those assets and support the public safety and like as Fawad mentioned, access to Wi-Fi in public areas like the parks. It just brings another layer of why a city, government is here. We are here to provide a service to the residents. We are here to improve the quality of life of the residents. And the best way to do it with technology is by enabling them and providing the tools that are needed for employees, city employees, to do their job, and for residents to connect to a network that is free for them and they can be used for school, work, or whatever is needed, right? So that is really kind of like a high level story of why Brownsville went through this journey.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And you mentioned the police force and the fire department, etc. So they're using the 5G network as well?
Yeah, so we have a lot of their cameras connected now in the downtown area to their network, to our network, and they have visibility. So now they don't need to go pay the cellular carrier for a SIM card to connect those cameras, or we don't have to use the point-to-point radios that we used to have to connect.
So when you say point-to-point, the Motorola, the walkie-talkies as well? Or?
No, those use a different frequency for
right.
the responders. But now I'm talking about, when I say point-to-point radio, is the radio that is used to point
microwave links.
Yeah, microwave links.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So Fawad, maybe I can come to you now and say that when it came to designing this network, what were what were the specific challenges that you faced, and what were the approaches that you took to make this deployable and affordable from a city viewpoint?
No, that's a very key question. I think it is very unique to the city that they have their own fiber. Means I haven't seen any city that owns the backbone fiber, hundreds and miles that they actually can use for their purposes and for the purposes of putting a private 5G on top of it. And that's very much unique to the city and the vision that they have laid out. Means fiber becomes the build. Means my son was asking me, okay, what's going on? And to a 4th-year-old, I was explaining to him, this is like a Lego block. You need to have a great foundation, and the city leaders, Jorge, they had a vision, a really good foundation where they build it up, and on top of fiber, they're putting private 5G, and now we're putting Wi-Fi. We looking to connect the expansion now in future, and I will ask Jorge to share more of that, where intelligent transportation system would be running on it. And building that was a very key, because we had all the building blocks there. Now comes the part of engineering, and with partners, we engineered. And Jorge, please share your view on how from your perspective it went. So.
I think, for what hit the many key points, right, is this system will not be possible without a proper design and having the fundamentals. And in this case is, a fiber network that we build in the city, over 100 miles of fiber throughout the city, in strategic locations with this in mind. So it is great to work with great partners that allow us to expand and think big. And we were able to design, like for what I was saying, the second phase, which is expanding our P5G, covering, I would say, about 80-90% of city limits. And that's huge, right? Which now is not only going to support the public safety, but is right now also, forgot to mention, is the airport, how it is supporting the airport and on their security and all their operations, and how it will help the transportation department, and that includes traffic, bus transportation, and all the local entities, which are the Homeland Security and a lot of the government agencies that are here, that because of a border town, that is huge.
Excellent. So one of we were going to have NVIDIA with us. I know you're working with them, but for I think logistical reasons, we can't have Mike here today. It'll be interesting just to hear what you're doing with NVIDIA and how the private 5G network is supporting those use cases.
So, I mean, I think it all goes right to what I've been saying, those layers that need to be in place. You need to have fiber network. You need to have a data center that is modern to support the load. You have to have the P5G, but now you got all the sensors that are everywhere, cameras, sensors, parking meters, whatever is it that is connected to our fiber and P5G network. How can we look at everything that is happening in a single, pane of glass? How can we see the cameras, every single cameras, 1,000 cameras? How can we see them and know what is happening in our city? That's where the AI comes in, right? Vision AI, to let us know every time if somebody's driving the wrong way. Let me know when there's aggressive behavior in a park, weapon detection. I mean, you name it, right? So many use cases at the airport, foreign object detection, perimeter security. So the only way we can get that data in real time and send to the right people at the right time is with artificial intelligence. And so that's why we build our own AI factory in-house with NVIDIA, with the help of NVIDIA, to really, use and leverage that infrastructure, leverage what we have in-house, and do everything in-house without, adding additional cost, especially on the inferencing.
Excellent. Thanks for that insight. Because, clearly, we've always thought of private 5G as the sort of on-ramp for AI, because all of this information needs to come in. And most people think of AI as ChatGPT, which is just like the equivalent of sort of text messages. But when you start using video and sensor information, I mean, this is really a lot of information. And all of a sudden, you're now using it more on the uplink than on the downlink. So one of the questions that's just come in from Warren, who's one of the viewers, is how do you balance or plan uplink capacity expectations with CBRS limitations, especially if you go high power and reduce radios? So the whole sort of radio planning and all of that, is that something you're doing as a city? Are you outsourcing that? Are you working with a system integrator?
We're working with the partners, and we did the analysis before submitting the FCC waiver. I think this is coming about the waiver the city has submitted. So we did the analysis with our partners. We looked at the specialists, and those are the experts that are in these areas, to look at, okay, what are the elements and how can it be achieved? Even looking at device ecosystems, so would that be supporting that? So we looked in those two. So yes, it is possible, and we submitted as part of the waiver information to FCC of how it would be achieved. I'll be happy to share the FCC waiver link to Warren. I think I know Warren from. So yeah, sure.
Excellent.
The AI part of it, as I was saying, the city has the fiber. We're now putting the private 5G. We are expanding the private 5G. We're connecting many, many more IoT assets. This could be from public safety to public Wi-Fi. And using the AI, we are augmenting and bringing the information that the city employees need to do their work much more efficient and much more better. We're utilizing for that purpose. So the whole goal of AI is to actually improve public government, public safety, and bring better services to the community.
Excellent. Fawad, you also, I remember when we were talking offline, talking about using drones, right? And I think that would be an interesting topic for both you and Jorge to talk to us about. What your thoughts are on not only that, but just in general autonomous, robotics and all of these things. Are these relevant from a city perspective? Are they not? Is this private 5G what else is this private 5G the foundation for going into the future?
I would just gotta say, I gotta drop off. I let Fawad. He knows everything about what is going on in the. I just have
Thank you, Jorge.
I'll stop. But thank you for them inviting me, and Fawad will be able to explain everything that's going on. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jorge. So the drone, I think in US we have drone for first responders, which major cities are adopting, and City of Brownsville is already have an active drone fleet for first responders. Combining not just the private 5G, but then looking at AI element, the information that is collected from drone, what we're looking at, can we save the time it takes for someone calling 911 due to a hit and run or an accident in certain areas? And if that is captured in the drone or through a traffic camera, that reduction in time, it can be given an alert can be generated through an AI. But there is always human in the loop. One key aspect that we have, that there is always human in the loop that would review the alerts and then act on it. So the vision and the goal, and this is where the city leadership coming together, not just one department, many departments, including public safety, police, fire, EMS, traffic, park and rec, all departments coming together and looking, okay, how are we going to be benefiting different departments, but also bring better service to public safety. So drone becomes an element where it is being used for first responders, but as we go forward, we will be using drones for elements where we can enable better safety, better quick bringing EMS on the route to them quicker where there is incident or something is happening, even looking at challenges in terms of traffic congestion and others. We'll be monitoring and looking at those. So there are many aspects. So as we building out, so we looking into the drone, there are other use cases we have looked at, and there are, I think soon we will know about ISAC and 6G. So we're looking into those two, ISAC to not only collect data from the drone, but also monitor drone activities in the vicinity of the city, as this is a border town.
Right. Okay. Now it's interesting that you're using the CBRS network for mission critical, city critical applications. One of the questions people always had was, since access to the spectrum is SAS dependent, what risks does that pose? Is that something that you're concerned about or not? How do you deal with that?
So yes, we are concerned and we have looked into that, but then also we know that through discussions with SAS partners who are monitoring the SAS ecosystem, let's say if the incumbents, which is DoD or Navy, comes into the shores close to Brownsville, what would happen, because they might use it for their radar systems or others. But the elements we looked into is like, okay, the SAS is always able to move us. I mean, this is 150 megahertz of spectrum. And I think what we need to make sure that we are able to keep the critical elements that could be more inland and up and so forth. So we're looking into that and just looking at the areas where we can benefit continuously without impacting the critical services.
Okay, interesting. Now, you've been involved in private 5G for since pre-COVID almost. Around the time that the spectrum first became available, could you talk us through some of the challenges in terms of from the initial excitement 2020, CBRS spectrum is available, we can go and deploy a private network, to oops, we've got some can't get the equipment, this, that, and the other. Where are we? What is your honest opinion of where we are today, and what it means realistically from the point of view of being really able to deploy production networks as opposed to trials and POCs?
I think I recall this is pre when FCC announced that when the FCC G8 the spectrum, and I think I recall the time when you and me, we were working on getting an STA from FCC to do and this was the Mobile World Congress event in, I think, Las Vegas. No, I don't remember, was it Las Vegas or San Francisco? But
yeah, that's right. San Fran, I think. Yeah.
San Francisco. We applied for the STA, and we had the AR, VR, low latency use cases built upon it before even the spectrum went GA. And the aspect was, hey, what Cargill and NTT and previous sessions were about, like, we are able to see the benefit is not as difficult as anything like doing a Wi-Fi. It is, but just you understand the building blocks, so you build it better. So I think it has come a long way, and definitely there is more to be done. Our goal and vision, when we as a city and we speak with other cities, they want to know how they want to achieve it. Definitely our goal is we are sharing those pathways and frameworks of how we build the building blocks, what are the things that we are doing, so they can get the inspiration, but not just the inspiration to actually go and do it. So we plan to share those information to any city that want to reach out, and we are already doing it with few cities. Okay. The neighboring cities in Rio Grande Valley, as for them, the connectivity becomes more critical, and connectivity is becoming more and more critical. Not just, I'm not saying this is going to replace operators network. No, we need operators network, but the private network and the cities use become so critical because everything get connected. Means with having more assets coming into that city will be utilizing it. We need to look at beyond today's connectivity and how we can bring service to the community that would be built upon a robust private network.
Excellent. Okay. I guess, one of the challenges, once you get over the excitement of, hey, I've deployed a network, you get into day two, right? Which is the operations. Can you tell us, as a proud owner of a network as a city, how are you handling day two operations? What network controls, parameters, etc. do you manage? Do you have a single, are you using different tools, different vendors? How is it integrated with your Wi-Fi or your city IT net? What is it actually like to run it on a day-to-day basis?
And definitely we need partners. I think there is the aspect of, there are things that city can do and there are things that partners can do. And therefore few things we need partners, but also looking at the city's, I would say, IT and digital ecosystem, there are a few things that we can integrate that with, which is certainly is on security. Like if we are using, I don't want to name elements of certain OEMs, but security aspects, city having a robust security procedure, city having a robust networking guidelines and policies of how IoT assets are onboarded, how they are being interacting, how we are making sure there are both logical gaps, boundaries of activities in terms of firewalls between various aspects so that it doesn't impact something else if we get an intrusion within our IoT network. So it all comes back to that we have to work and look holistically. Okay, we are putting an IoT asset network. We don't want to impact public service, so that needs to run on a separate area. And we don't want to impact the community or the outreach or even our website, simple things, because the community relies on it. Plus, we want to continue providing them public Wi-Fi. So all that needs to come to like how we build the security. Like I was discussing with one of the IT directors, like, okay, we're having a lot of social events in the parks, and what should be the minimum limit of bandwidth we should provide as we are providing public Wi-Fi at it's free. And I was looking at what are the statistics. Okay, how much is the minimum they need for browsing? How much is the minimum if they want to do any streaming? Because sometimes they do want to stream. They want to stream games, they want to stream matches, they want to stream other things. So we limit that, and then we make sure that there is enough capacity so we do not block or impact the node itself or the edge node that is actually serving it. So, and those becomes as part of our guideline. And then we make sure that is being taken into consideration if we onboard a new asset and say, okay, these are the things we need to implement. So it becomes a process. Okay. So yeah, it's a learning element, but still it's growing. So when we're learning, got a great team. There's a good team. It's a team effort that the city is working between us. We have a great team also, I think.
Right. So let's say, a device suddenly disappears, is not connected to the network anymore, and you want to find out what's going on. How does that work? Do you have a dashboard? Do you look at that? At what point do you call your vendor or your system integrator, and what do you do? What do you hand over? So support level 1, level 2, let's say. How does it work?
I think level 1 is us. Level 2, level 3, we work with partners to make sure that, okay, what is happening? What is the root cause? And it's not just the root cause. The partners have helped us to look at, okay, we having these issues regularly. Let's look at how we can redesign the aspects of it. Means if something is happening regularly, then definitely there needs to be a change in the design to make sure, okay, how we can avoid or mitigate that aspect. So we are working with, and if something goes down, we get the notification, and because nowadays putting a notification on edge devices or even a Wi-Fi devices or anything, it's so easy. It just sends email, so it say, hey, I'm not connected anymore. So we look at the edge device, we look at the connectivity, we look at the backhaul, we look at the simple basic key element, power. Sometimes power get impacted or something happens. So we looked at all those aspects of it and say, okay, where the element, if something is repetition, we work with the partners to redesign. So we bring robustness into the system. I think that's also key. And that's why it's really great to have partners that actually we work with.
Okay. Well, Fawad, thank you very much. City of Brownsville, pioneering city in terms of being one of the first truly smart cities. I mean, we've heard of people actually trying to roll these out, but you're, I think, at the forefront in terms of the use cases and the mission criticality of what you're doing and the way that you've embraced it. Certainly a lighthouse deployment, and I hope many cities across the world will come and learn the use cases from you. So thank you very much for sharing your learnings with us. And I think you're coming on to the robotics thing later on, right?
Yes, I do also want to mention that Jorge will be going to MWC.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
If you guys or anyone wants to reach out, those who will be there. Sorry, I won't be there, but Jorge will be there. Please reach out. Have you any questions, please reach out to him and ask him. He's going to be in a few of the panels there.
Excellent. And thank you very much, Fawad.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can have some downtime now after the uptime.